The MCU kicked off in '08 with the release of Iron Man. And in 18 years, across more than 30 films and a growing catalogue of television series, it has produced every kind of villain you can think of. Starting on the bottom floor, level 1 are the villains I call the warm-up act. The warm-up act villain exists for one reason: to get hit. They are a placeholder, a punching bag dressed up in a costume with a name and a motivation that the movie did not bother to develop because it is too busy setting up the actual story. They show up, they are a menace briefly, they get defeated in Act 3, and by the time the credits roll, you've already forgotten their name. No MCU villain ends this placement harder than Malekith. Malekith is the ruler of the Dark Elves. He wants to use something called the Ether to plunge the universe into eternal darkness during a rare cosmic event called the Convergence. That is a decent premise for a villain, an ancient being with a weapon of mass destruction. On paper, this will make him a top 5 MCU threat. On screen, it is just 2 hours of Malekith doing nothing of consequence before Thor defeats him. Malekith has no scene that makes you understand what darkness means to him and why the universe deserves it. He shows up, he talks big about how he will conquer the universe and ends up getting beaten. This character could have been great, but the MCU didn't use him to his full potential. Whiplash from Iron Man 2 is another example of a warm-up act. He was sidelined for most of the movie and only showed up for the final fight, which lasted around 90 seconds before he blew himself up. This kind of villain is forgettable because the movie forgot about them first. Level 2 villains are a different kind of disappointing. The MCU builds them up to seem like a genuine threat. They are given a real screen presence, only for it to be revealed that they are working for someone who does not even appear until later in the movie. Level 2 is what I call the errand boy. Ronan the Accuser is the perfect example. Errand boys are the muzzles sent ahead of the real plan. They have enough personality and power to carry a film on their own, but they are not given the opportunity. Even if the main big bad doesn't show up in that particular film, by the time the credits roll, you realize that everything they did was in service of the agenda of another. And you know what's sad about the errand boy? Many times they are even more interesting than their employer. That doesn't mean they wouldn't get defeated in the worst way possible. Ronan is physically imposing and is capable of destroying a planet with his bare hands, and he still got beaten by a dance-off.
Get brighter. Listen to these words. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier.
This tells you where Ronan sits in the hierarchy of Marvel villains. His actual employer, Thanos, appears in just a single scene in the movie, says almost nothing, but you know he's the boss. He doesn't have to do too much. Errand boys just help to push the plot and franchise forward. For when the studio needs a threat in the film but cannot use the real threat yet because he is still like 3 movies away. So they borrow an antagonist from somewhere else in the universe, dress them up and send them out to keep the audience satisfied. In level 3 we have the mirror villains. These are villains who could have become heroes if their origin story were put through a different filter. Just clone the protagonist and flip their values and you get this villain. Yellow Jacket from Ant-Man is my example here. Darren Cross, before he became Yellow Jacket, he worked under the direct mentorship of Hank Pym to crack the Pym particle. But when they were close to succeeding, Hank pushed him out because he could not trust him with the technology. This caused Darren to become villainous. He's a brilliant man who feels wronged by his mentor, the one who was supposed to believe in him, so he decides to become destructive in response.
Are you a monster?
Do I look like a monster?
Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3 is another example. He got stood up by Tony Stark in 1999, and because of that, He spent the next couple of years building a shadow weapons empire specifically to become someone that Tony Stark would take seriously. Oh my god. He became a monster just because Tony Stark refused to join his research. MCU has a lot of mirror villains. They love the formula and use it constantly. Gore and Kang are also variants of a mirror villain. In level 4 are the True Believers. True Believer villains are the tier that make people uncomfortable. You can't easily dismiss them. Their logic is coherent and their grievance is real. The thing is that their methods are often unforgivable. Nobody fits this description better than Eric Killmonger in the MCU. Killmonger grew up in Oakland, California after his father Njobu was killed by T'Chaka. Killmonger grew up without a country and without a family. Growing up, he saw Wakanda as a betrayer of black people. He believes that Wakanda could have done a lot of good things for black people around the world, but chose not to. So Killmonger went to MIT, joined the military, and ran Black Ops missions across 4 continents, all in preparation for one goal. He wanted the Wakanda throne and vibranium so he can do what Wakanda refused to do. True Believer villains might lose the physical fight in the end, but they always win the argument. The 5th level of MCU villains is the Institution. These villains understand that the most durable form of power is a system, not necessarily a weapon, or an army, or a throne. And of course, is there a bigger villainous institution in Marvel than Hydra?
Hail Hydra!
Hydra has been operating inside S.H.I.E.L.D. since its founding. For 70 years they waited, placing people at every level of the organization and waited for the right time to take over. Alexander Pierce was an undercover Hydra agent and used S.H.I.E.L.D's own helicarriers to attempt a preemptive strike on 20 million people. That is how powerful institutions can be. With patience and a structure, a villainous institution can infiltrate the government and take over. The institution villain is the hardest to defeat because you cannot punch a system, you only dismantle it from the inside. Level 6 would be the wounded god. A good example is Loki. These are the characters with godlike power who are also completely devastated by something that happened to them in the past. They have real power, but the wound they carry is deeper. This combination makes them very unpredictable and very dangerous. When Loki finds out the truth about his real family in the first Thor film, everything Loki believes in collapses. He was not the weaker but clever one in the family of warriors, as he always told himself. He was a trophy, a tool, a child taken from his family as a political asset. He was never going to be king. The rage that comes out of that revelation is the engine of Marvel's Phase 1. Wanda Maximoff is another wounded god. She lost her parents to a Stark Industries missile. She lost her brother on the Sokovia battlefield. She lost Vision twice. By the time WandaVision begins, she has nothing left and chooses to rewrite reality. The Scarlet Witch is not a villain who chooses evil. She was just a woman in so much pain. The town of Westview did not get trapped inside a sitcom because Wanda decided to imprison people. It got trapped because grief that size needed somewhere to go. Do you understand what I mean? Every villain up to this point can be outmaneuvered or defeated in a room by the right combination of heroes. But this is almost impossible with my last villain. Can you guess? Leave your thoughts in the comment section before I say it. Level 7 is the inevitable. And who is more inevitable than Thanos? You see, what separates Thanos and every other villain in the MCU is the combination of the scale of his power and his sincerity. He watched his own planet Titan collapse under the weight of its own population. He proposed a solution, random culling of half of the population, and got exiled for it. Then Titan died exactly the way he predicted it would. He has been right before, he knows he has been right before. Thanos does not enjoy what he's doing He has long since made peace with what has to be done and is now just completing the work. The snap itself is the most consequential single action that any MCU villain has ever taken. Every villain before Thanos threatened to destroy or conquer something. Thanos actually did it. Half of all life in the universe ceased to exist. Every villain on this list has a counter, a plan that falls apart when the right person pushes back at the right moment. To defeat Thanos, the heroes needed time travel and also had to sacrifice an Avenger. With that, I have come to the end of the video. Do you agree with my list? If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next video.